With their divorce looming, he's offering himself up to Gisele or Tom Brady. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice. We got a mandate to get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
And Baldwin.
White people are dogs.
Well, we got Jake Paul on the show today. We got Bill Shatner. A lot of range in those two guests, but excited to talk to both of them about it. I was referencing a clip that Terry Crews did on Take a Knee some years ago when he was talking about making the pie deeper or bake your own pie or whatever it is versus the equity that Kamala Harris was talking about recently, which is a fucking road to nowhere. Just the general concept of like, well, not everyone starts in the same place. No shit, bitch. Check your globe. This is how it works.
Big world out there.
The point of a society is starting everyone in the same place is a mathematical impossibility. It cannot happen. And if in order to make it happen, you'd need some real totalitarian rule kicking in to fix that one.
It's really philanthropic rich people.
All we can do as a society is create a society. You know, so many societies.
That's the triple society
in our world there's so much corruption and graft and everyone's on the take, and you can't go to certain societies if you're not from a certain family. You know, in Russia,
right.
many parts of Central America and South America, it's not worth trying to get started. You'll never get there. All you can do as a society is go, no one's starting in the same place, but everyone has the same opportunity to get to the same place. That's all you can do as a society. That's the challenge. And you keep refining it and you keep making laws and things that says, all right, this group has suffered. Let's see if we can flatten out the playing field a little. But that's about it. The next part where everyone needs to start in the same place and presumably end in the same place. And by the way, I know many people that are more than happy to work evenings, holidays, and weekends, and I know many people who do not. Why should those people who choose not to do this end up in the same place as Mark Garagos, who comes in here and sits on his phone in the parking lot with his Range Rover running, and then runs in here, barks out a few things, and then runs back and gets on the phone? Why shouldn't that guy's extra work be factored in? This is Terry Crews from 2015.
Listen, you can steal from me, I'll be fine. The question is, what does that do to you? That's the question. Terry Crews is going to be great. But if you steal from me, if you go and bust in my house, take my TVs, and I'll go get some more TVs.
Right.
But what does that do to you? What are you now?
You're a thief is what you are.
You are a thief. And you live like a thief. And you act like a thief. And all of a sudden, everybody is your problem. You are now a professional victim because you see no way you can get anything in your life other than taking it. And I had some friends that I had to get rid of. They had a mindset of this, you know, man, you know, you got to get yours because everybody's trying to get. It's like, whoa. No. You can create. First of all, you are a creator. That's what we do. We create things. And, you know, anytime you think of this world like a pie, it's funny because everybody's like, man, you got to get your piece of the pie. We finally got a piece. You know, the songs, everybody's singing it, and everybody's scrambling because there ain't going to be nothing left. But that's not true. The world is like a kitchen. You got flour, you got fruit, you got whatever. Make a pie. You can make pie. Wait, there's not one left.
Well, that dude's a racist, clearly.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. He summed it up nicely. Make your own fucking pie.
And last year, so Dave Ramsey from the Ramsey Show, the financial advisor, he tweeted Terry this exact quote. And then Terry responded with the fire emoji. So still all about it.
Yeah.
Gina, want to give
it
a run?
says, everybody says they're trying to get their piece of the pie. They don't realize that the world is a kitchen. You can make your own pie. And that is attributed to Terry Crews.
Right. Now, politicians get elected convincing you can't make your own pie, so you need some of Terry Crews's pie. That's the insidious part.
And, it's so funny because when I was walking this morning, I was listening to this podcast about psychology, and it was about learned helplessness and how, in a family or whatever, you either are told over and over again, or there are things happen that you're like, I don't know, I give up. Somebody just help me because I don't know. But I was like, oh my God, that's what we're talking about, like on the show. Like, it's societal learned helplessness.
Yes.
And it's so unfair to the person that you're convincing is helpless.
You're hobbling them. Look no further than Brad Williams. His dad said, hey, life's going to be tough. I'm not going to build you a step stool. You want to get the cereal out of the upper cabinet? That's where it is. Figure it out, dude. You're not a victim. Adapt, overcome. And that's why Brad's Brad. All right. So in other news, Chris did his due diligence on the Harry Hay book.
Oh, did he read the whole thing, cover to cover?
I read a lot of it, yeah.
He went online. He did the book, the Kindle version
ebook,
of
yeah.
it, and then
Good.
put Grandma's name in there.
Wow.
And there was a little discovery because my grandfather, Lotzi, spelled Lacey, so they thought there was a Lacey Gorog in there, but it's L-A-C-I, which is Lotzi. So thought maybe in a chick, but that's him.
Right.
And then Grandma had a Helen Johnson versus a Gorog back then, so they had to look it up. Had to do a little sleuth work.
More torrid and tawdry details.
Yes, and also if you're watching on YouTube, we just put up a picture of Helen that was in the book.
Wow.
So there she is.
Made the
And
picture section.
So
Yeah.
I got a few excerpts. This one is just a little slice of life.
Now, this is all must be from the 40s, I'm guessing. She met Grandpa. She was dating him in the later 40s.
Yeah.
So they were somewhere in the 40s.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, so here we go.
Distinguished European musicians who happened to be leftists were among those who gave concerts at the building when films were not being shown. Visitors covered the social spectrum, and one of the more glamorous was Richard Bulig, a renowned Viennese pianist who was a teacher to John Cage. Bulig invited the young people from Herald Way to his own house in Los Feliz. Bulig's big distinction was that he had an affair with Isadora Duncan, recalled Helen Johnson.
Oh, gossip.
He was gay,
Spilling it.
but I guess she was just too good or too famous to pass up.
Oh, my.
He had a wonderful large house with a front room that was completely unfurnished except for his grand piano. I remember his playing, and Harry and I would dance together. That was something. Harry was a very good ballroom dancer,
I don't say.
and with Bulig playing, it was glorious.
Damn.
Yeah, Grandma in her
life.
younger years.
On the rug or
Yeah, a lot of artists and bohemians and actors and musicians. She loved that shit. The other, I don't know if you guys had this, but it'll come up as Dawson reads on. The unnecessary or undue glorification of their friends. Did you guys have that?
how
Like-
so?
It'd be a lot of like, Trudy Mandel's an artist, okay? And she makes art, and she's a wonderful artist. But it's like Trudy Mandel sold some slab pots, at a yard sale. You know what I mean? Like it's like
an
there was
up-rounder.
no context
Sure.
to anything. Everyone was just a wonderful and the best, And Jules is. He's got the understudy position of man at La Mancha in the Conejo Junior College. But if you thought about a contemporary who said, "Yeah, I'm an actor. How's it going?
Really? What have you been in?
I'm understudying the man at La Mancha at Conejo JC."
So again, where are you acting?
Yeah, it's like
You between gigs?
Yeah.
you would look at that person as a loser actor.
Yeah. Like a bless your heart.
Right. And then there was these kind of random sort of Anita says, or there's a lot of this sort of building up of people that weren't particularly accomplished, let's say. Like, look, my kids grew up suckling at the bosom of Jimmy Kimmel and Mark Garagos and Dr. Drew. Those are some of the people that were around them. And you couldn't go, all right, that person has actually done something in their life. These were people that were needlessly built up.
Inflated.
I think it was to put a little shine on their star.
Yes.
Like, this is a
This is
friend
who
of
I
mine.
hang with.
Emery Kenrick is a friend of mine. Like that. As I said to my grandmother, famously, a million years ago, God knows how we got into clitoris versus clitoris.
Oh boy!
But
You're making my grandma blush.
But my grandmother, I said clitoris, and she said it's pronounced clitoris.
Like a hard stand.
And I said, Dr. Drew says clitoris, and she's like, Emery Kenrick's a doctor, and he says clitoris, and I was like, all right,
Let's call the whole
I don't know why
thing
your
off.
doctor's better than my doctor, and then we went. I'll never forget it. We said, you know what, we're going to settle this argument, and we
By me jumping out the window.
We marched into my grandfather's office, still intact,
Yeah.
after he'd passed, found his oversized dictionary, looked it up with large print, and it said, pronounce it either way.
Oh.
So not
she claimed
satisfied.
victory.
We both did a victory lap around
good.
the 1,100 square foot shack she lived in. All right, sorry, more.
And before you go on, I love that she had to sneak in a ton of gossip and hearsay. Like, well, he was gay, but he must have been great, but that's not mine, never mind.
Well, there's a lot of gay who married and had kids.
Sure,
and
back in the day.
Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of this book does feature stories about Harry's hookups with both men and women.
Yeah.
And
Good for
here's
him.
and here's Helen describing one of the young men that he was with.
Harry took up another steamy and ultimately strained romance with Walter Keller, a young man he met that autumn. Keller was of Russian Jewish heritage, 17 years old,
Whoa.
and resembled a young fawn.
What?
He looked like Bambi.
Get the fuck out of
Who
here.
you want to be your grandmother? Jesus Christ, how about you bake some Toll House cookies, bitch? We'll call it a life.
They met at one of Don Sample's parties in
By the
Home-
way, now, no wonder she was not in the stands of any Pee Wee football games I was playing and cheering me on after working the concession stand and volunteering
No.
there. You expect
She wasn't
this
in the booster
woman
club.
to be in the stands
No.
of a
Busy
Pop Warner football
Thinking
game?
up elaborate similes of her
That's
friends.
right.
They met at one of Don Sample's parties in Homo Hollow, a house Harry's old friend rented on Lower Laurel Canyon Road. It had been painted by a Hollywood set designer to look like a crumbling ruin and was a well-known party spot.
Homo Hollow.
Don had cultivated a salon of all sorts of people, from the adventurous to the pretentious, recalled Helen Johnson. Parties would start there Friday night and end sometime Monday or Tuesday, whenever people had to crawl off to work. That house had great suspended ceiling beams, and I remember Don walking barefoot across them every time he got drunk.
It's a builder.
I don't like the idea that she's staring up at the ceiling beams for a 3-day weekend
In
because
what,
I feel
what
like
activity could she possibly be engaged in?
not playing Connect 4. She's drinking bathtub gin and getting railed. Man, Grandma could party with the Bohemians.
All weekend.
No wonder. Then she ends up working at the VA, living in North Hollywood, and having me show up wanting to work on Tonka trucks and stuff. And she's like, well,
Yes.
screw this. I'm an artist. Yeah. Sorry, Dawson.
Okay, yeah. So the next excerpt. Well, I should mention Harry Hay was married to a woman.
Father of the modern gay movement. Sorry.
Yes. And we find out that the woman, Anita, was introduced to Harry by Helen.
Wow.
Helen Johnson, Harry's friend from the Film and Photo League, was Anita's best friend in the class of 1931 at Beverly Hills High School. Anita was gifted with fine intelligence, humor, and style. Helen said, though because of her appearance she lacked self-confidence.
Yeah. So set the porker up with the gay guy.
That's right.
It's easy.
Other of Anita's friends shared that impression. Anita really was attractive and had a lot of style, Helen recalled. But she was dark. And as my mother would have said, foreign looking,
Oh, ethnic.
which meant Jewish looking.
That's right. Yeah, Semitic.
In the 30s, if you weren't 5'2" with eyes of blue, you didn't feel so pretty. But to Harry, Anita's party membership outshone all else. She had already gone through the classes I was involved in and had read the right literature and knew all the right people. It seemed like the start of a beautiful relationship, free of the deadlocks he had faced before. He contrived to meet her at his birthday party that April. Leroy Robbins' wife, Florence, threw a dinner, and Harry asked Helen to invite her tall girlfriend. That night, Harry remembered. We discovered we liked each other. They found they thought alike and shared a sense of humor and an interest in the arts. Harry recalled that at political meetings, when slogans were being composed for protest signs, he would start a slightly wicked, sophisticated one, and Anita invariably finished it. Harry once said, with awkward sincerity, if she had been a boy, we would still probably be together.
Yeah.
During the course of public protests,
I like the
and family
kind of
dinners.
I like the kind of Jerry Maguire. You complete me. You finish my protest
Yeah,
sign.
your call and response.
They fell in love.
And so they were married.
Good for them.
But
Yeah.
then
Yeah, so they were married, but because Harry was gay, there was a lot of trouble in the relationship. What? Yeah, there were a lot of men still involved in his life, so there's trouble in paradise.
Anita did her best to keep things in check. Once, when they and the Gorogs were playing charades, Harry acted out something and his partner couldn't get it. When the game was over and the term was revealed, they disagreed about the definition and, insisting he was right, Harry left angrily.
yeah, I told you the guy's a delight.
Anita brought him over early the next morning and made him apologize.
Yeah, well, wait till noon. By the way, if
Yeah.
you guys have been drinking and playing charades all night,
Early the next
like
morning.
knock, 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 6:45. Sorry.
Beat it.
Okay, it's fine.
Helen remembered. That was just Harry. It didn't affect our friendship. Later, when our daughter ran away and we stayed up all night
That'd be
worrying.
Mom.
And we stayed up all night worrying. It was Harry and Anita who held our hands.
Damn. Wait, do you know that story?
That sounds vaguely something. I'm assuming everyone ran away at some point. There's two themes. You either run away or you wait 3 years and get kicked out. That was
Right.
the sort of the family
Right.
theme. So some people didn't feel like, they quit before they get fired.
Understood.
I think that was the thought process.
Wow.
Yeah, the great Harry Hay and Grandma and Beverly Hills and Hollywood
Los
and
Feliz.
Los Feliz.
Homo Hollow.
My grandmother grew up in a sort of affluently in Beverly Hills, but her dad, I hope everyone's sitting down, who she hated, was not a doctor or lawyer. He was a cement contractor who liked fishing and going on
Blue
hunting
collar.
trips and stuff. He, because of Los Angeles being the way it was in the 20s, was able just to get a bunch of work paving Los Angeles and Hollywood.
Changing from orange groves to streets.
Made enough money to live in Beverly Hills because Beverly Hills wasn't really Beverly Hills like it is now. And they tried to keep up this sort of facade of a sophisticated life living in Beverly Hills, but he was really just a blue collar sort of, bumpkin who wanted to hang out with his crew and go hunting and stuff like that.
Well, at least it explains the genesis of your grandmother's wanting to be something she's not.
Right.
Fit in.
So she decided she would be with the bohemians and the artists and get away from this guy who wanted to go hunting and fishing and drive a truck and everything. So she hated her brother and she hated her brother, her dad, and her mom. I guess that about covered it.
Trifecta.
And then the Depression hit and everyone lost everything and now everyone was out. And from that day forth, until young Adam Carolla hammered a check about 20 years ago, it was just poverty from that point
Did
forward.
they lose their house in Beverly Hills?
Yeah, and it was a big thing because they had like a servant and stuff
Shit.
back when those houses had
Servants' quarters.
quarters off the kitchen, and they kept up appearances.
Wow.
And then they lost it all. And then the brother committed suicide,
Right,
and
right.
then it all started to come unraveled after that.
Wow.
Yeah. I wish he could have kept it going. going or still own the house or something over there somewhere in Beverly Hills.
Can you imagine?
By the way, on Cannon Drive, except for my grandmother would always correct me and tell me it was Canyon.
Canyon, because it has
that's the
tilde.
squiggle over
Yep.
the end, and then I would go, I got it, but everyone says Cannon, so I'm just saying, well, you would be incorrect.
Oh, I'm
So,
sure she called it Los Feliz.
there was a battle. Oh, of course.
God.
Sepulveda.
Yeah.
All right. We have some liked tweets, according to Maxipad over there, that we can get into.
All right, so this video's been going around for a while, but there's some Dutch builders that built a tunnel under a highway in 48 hours, and there's a time-lapsed video that everybody was watching on Twitter, millions and millions of views. In less than 48 hours, road workers recently demolished a roadway that was too narrow, installed a tunnel in its place, and rebuilt the new highway to be 1 lane wider. All of this through dead of night darkness and the occasional rainstorm.
This is in the
In
Netherlands?
48 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one weekend, and then
Wow.
the tunnel is prefabbed and preformed, and they just slide it into place and then bring the road. I'm just saying.
It can be done.
Somebody tweeted me too, like, California's last in roads, number one in gas prices and last in roads. We have the worst roads. And then I think about this stretch next to this building, the side of the freeway that I've been taking pictures of. They have been working on that side of freeway. I keep asking Chris, is there a date by when I first started sending you pictures of it? There is an over under 7.5 years of them. The other day,
Easily.
they were spraying wood chips on it, so they're getting to the end. They plant trees, then the weeds take it over, then they pull the weeds, then the weeds grow again, then they pull the weeds again, then the sprinklers sprinkle the sidewalk. Then at some point, they were spraying wood chips on the side of the freeway the other day. But the thing that was funny is somebody had dumped a mattress on the side, and they sprayed it with wood.
They went over the
mattress has the wood chips on it. As opposed to what we're just talking to the Dutch tunnel. That was 2 days. 2 days to add a lane, build a tunnel, install a tunnel, repave the road. Wow. This is 7 years to take a mattress and spray it with wood chips.
What a sad metaphor.
I would assume, and you can look into this, Chris, I would assume. It's like I was talking on CarCast about, and we've talked about it before, like talking about going to Laguna Seca from here for a race in about a week and a half and towing the vehicle. And Matt, I have a Ford Dually diesel pickup truck that's been a little temperamental and had some issues. And I said, I don't know, are we comfortable taking that truck that's had some issues over the grapevine? And then I said, Matt, you got the new all-electric Ford Lightning. How's that do for towing? And the answer is it's got about a 300-mile range, but if you're towing, it's probably more like 165, 170, which means Laguna Seca is out of range. Right. And then the next question is, what's the infrastructure? Like if we can go to Buellton, have some split pea soup and put a charge back on the truck, then we can do it. And the answer, as tested from Edmunds, is there's no infrastructure. Tesla has an infrastructure because they're Tesla, and Elon's like, I'm going to work on the infrastructure. California doesn't have any infrastructure. So we want everyone to get an electric car, which is fine, but how is one getting out of town in said vehicle minus the infrastructure?
That's their plot to keep you here.
That's
Just
right.
enough to get you to the outskirts.
I would look, you don't have to look now, but is that Dutch tunnel video, it's from 2016, is that a private company is the question? Because I remember during the 94 earthquake, I brought it up before, patch of the 10 freeway collapsed and fucked up the whole city even worse than it is. And they just basically contracted to some private contractor and said, and I'll screw it up, but it's basically, if you can do this, get this back and running in under 5 weeks, you'll get, $2 million or $5 million, $10 million. But for every day under 5 weeks, we'll put another $100,000 in your pocket. Guess who got that shit done in like 11 days? That's how humans work. That's how it works, and that's why I don't want the government getting involved, because the side of this freeway is a bunch of guys with no incentive.
Well, and to take that point, the first thing I think of is when Congress, we didn't come up with any answers, but it's about time for Christmas break. So no, you're not going fucking anywhere until you figure this out.
Federal company. It was a Dutch company.
The project was commissioned by Rijkswaterstaat, the federal agency responsible for maintaining Dutch infrastructure, as part of an ongoing project to widen the major highway in the country.
So they just have their shit together. Yeah. But it had to be outside contractors that were doing
like the government paid for it.
I would assume. Anyway, then there is the next tweeted favorite or liked tweet. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Newsom has just signed a bill decriminalizing jaywalking.
He finally heard your pleas.
Yes. Where was he after I got all those fucking jaywalking tickets? And what's the city of Burbank going to do for revenue now?
That's true.
Yeah, so the new law will make it legal for pedestrians to cross the street anywhere, including outside of designated crosswalks, so long as it's safe to do so. Proponents of the law say that enforcing jaywalking laws waste police resources and discourage people from walking. And then it was written by Assemblymember Phil Ting. According to a release written by Ting, jaywalking disproportionately affects, quote, people of color and lower-income individuals who cannot afford tickets that can often total hundreds of dollars.
That's what it took.
They can also knock it the fuck off if they'd like. Well, you don't have to jaywalk. And also, I've been in this city for a long time. It was always described to me as a safety issue. We do jaywalking tickets because it is dangerous to jaywalk. We don't want to take your money, but we need to pass along this important safety message to you through your checking account. But evidently, it's not about safety anymore. It's about equality.
Yeah.
So I have a quote from Ting. Quote, "It should not be a criminal offense to safely cross the street. When expensive tickets and unnecessary confrontations with police impact only certain communities, it's time to reconsider how we use our law enforcement resources and whether our jaywalking laws really do protect pedestrians."
So it impacts only certain communities. So just black and brown communities. Or is it the community of people who jaywalk versus the community of people who don't jaywalk? These people are fucking nuts. And by the way, whatever communities you're trying to help by adjusting the math scores or getting rid of the jaywalking tickets, they shall fall further behind. That's how.
This is a nice version of what Canada complained about, because I thought you were all about this.
I'm all about the part where you go, hey, if it's safe, it's safe. I don't
tell your mouth.
I don't want it under the guise of equity. I don't like this impacts communities thing. It's fucking racist shit, and it's soft bigotry of low expectations. And on that note, I will play you. Let's see. So when the storm hit, Ron DeSantis made this comment like, hey, looters, don't try it, because we're Second Amendment here, and shit could happen if you try to loot.
We're not going to jump in.
Well, we may not be there, but the guy who owns the house may be there, and he may be packing. So this is him telling people not to loot. And also, a lot of people don't want to leave their house because they think it's going to be looted.
Yes.
Would you leave your house in L.A.?
Fuck no. Hardly leave it now.
It's going to be looted. You know what I mean? So I like the governor saying, we got your back. Sorry.
The other thing that we're concerned about, particularly in those areas that were really hard hit, is, we want to make sure we're maintaining law and order. Don't even think about looting. Don't even think about taking advantage of people in this vulnerable situation. And so local law enforcement is involved in monitoring that. I told Kevin if the state needs to help as well, because you can have people, bringing boats into some of these islands and trying to ransack people's homes. I can tell you in the state of Florida, you never know what may be lurking behind somebody's home. And I would not want to chance that if I were you, given that we're a Second Amendment state.
All right. So Joy Reid is very upset about that statement because, here it is. Yeah, she sent out a tweet.
She tweeted, she tweeted this with a response with the quote, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." And she quoted segregationalist Miami Sheriff Walter E. Headley from 1967 And then she wrote, didn't take DeSantis long to return to form, and then an NPR article about the quote.
All right. You think looters are black or brown, I guess, then that...
In the Everglades?
Well, it's kind of racist, like saying that jaywalkers are black. You know what I'm saying? Thanks, Joy.
Also, DeSantis and I aren't...
Oh, wait, she has a better quote than that. You can find it. There's another one you can look up. Sorry.
We're not simpatico on everything, but did you know that starting 4 days ago, there is a gas tax holiday in Florida. So it can be done, Governor. So that's, I think, 25 cents a gallon that they're not paying because there's a gas tax holiday. So just like Disney World staying open during COVID, you want to send a couple people over and see how they did it, or what do we do here?
We have, and I'll screw the math up a little, but the first $1.10 of our $7 gas out here, maybe $1.12 is taxes and regulations.
I thought it was 68 cents.
And then there's another 60-something cents worth of environmental whatever blend, meaning we in California say to the petroleum people, we need our own California blend, and they go, okay, we can do that, but it's going to cost you.
New Zealand peaberry.
And that's what we get.
Okay.
Cascade hops.
Exactly.
There's a couple of bucks off our 7 just right off the top, but then I think we're even going to raise gas taxes again. Chris can find it.
I'm not seeing any other...
There was another Joy Reid. I don't know if it was a vid or a tweet, or you can put Ben on it, tell him to look around. Anyway, a correction, but go ahead, Gina.
We were talking yesterday off mic about the severe beating that a Studio City resident was inflicted upon him here in Los Angeles in a pretty nice, normal neighborhood overall.
South of the boulevard.
Yeah. Well, I read where it was.
By Harbor Westlake?
No. By Terry's. I don't know if you're familiar. It's one of my favorite Mexican spots. It's basically Ventura and Tujunga, so it's kind of around the curve.
That makes a lot more sense.
And it said, how dare you? It said, the last quote, the guy, it's like his lung collapsed, his vertebrae are all fucked up, his ribs are cracked. And it wasn't, and I think the wife was the one who was quoted, I think, saying, these weren't transients. These people, quote unquote, live here. They just park here and live here.
Yeah, I think it was a hill house, and they were like parking down the hill.
Right. That's where they chill.
It didn't take that long for me. I used to go, why is everyone, look, if you're homeless, why are you living in Skid Row? Live in fucking Studio City. Yeah. I mean, go to where the real estate is $2 million a home and live there. Yeah. As long as you're living on the ground, might as well do it in a nice part of town.
Ground, yeah.
Right. And they figured it out. Also, a correction when... we were talking to Bill O'Reilly about Muhammad Ali, and he said Cus D'Amato was his trainer. Yeah. Angelo Dundee was his trainer, famously. Somebody corrected us, and we stopped and asked him about it, but Cus could have also trained him, or it just was that a complete
Bill
O'Reilly brain fart?
He doubled or tripled down. Yeah, he was like,
well, we said Cus D'Amato, and he said, yeah, back in the day. Timeline, it would have made sense, and Cus is a pretty renowned trainer, but Angelo Dundee was definitely Ali's number one guy. I don't know if Cus was, maybe Cus showed up at the camp. Yeah. There's multiple guys, and he would have been the right age to do it. All right, let's see. We got Jake Paul zooming in any moment now. Chris, there may be some more Joy Reid out there for some reason.
Yeah, that tweet is the only thing that everybody is reporting on. I'm not seeing any other comment from her.
All right, let me tell you about Simply Safe, thinking about protecting your home, but waiting for the right time. How about right now, the Adam Carolla shows? That's me, even if I can't pronounce my own name. Listeners are going to get 40% off. Best home security of 2022, so says U.S. News and World Report. I use and trust Simply Safe. Batteries last 10 years. You don't have to pull wires. You don't have to crawl around. You custom make the system for your home. 24/7 professional monitoring, cost under $1 a day, less than half the cost of ADT's professional installed plans. Don't miss a chance to save big and protect your home. Get 40% off your order at simplysafe.com/Adam today. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes. That's simplysafe.com/Adam. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, let's see. Jake Paul is going to be boxing Anderson Silva, who's in the Hall of Fame of the UFC, pretty much one of the earlier unbeatable UFC fighters, and he's getting into the ring with him, and we'll talk to him about that right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Ace Man, you're the car guy. Windshield wiper fluid. Why the 1 gallon container at the store, Mini Mart, and the reservoir in the car is 0.80 of a gallon? What do you do with that last 0.20, buddy?
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Yeah, that's for you to do a nice rinse if you've been blowing a butt out in the garage before you head in with the old lady who's told you she had to quit so many times. All right, we'll talk to Jake Paul in a second. Jake, pretty damn impressive. Forbes announced he made approximately $38 million in boxing.
Jesus.
Incredible.
In 2021. He's been, he started fighting YouTubers and then kind of worked his way up to UFC guys, and then moved up to try to fight Tyson Fury's brother, who's, what's his name, expat? Doesn't matter. Tommy Fury, half-brother. Tyson Fury's pretty much unbeatable heavyweight champ right now. His brother couldn't make it out of the country on more than one occasion. I don't know if he was ducking Jake or if there was some situation where somebody in the organization got caught up with the mob and there was an investigation and there was you're not going anywhere.
A little dusting of Colonel Tom Parker.
Yeah, so now he's going on with Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva, he, by the way, holds the record for the longest title reign in UFC history, which is about 2,500 days, which is a long time to be a middleweight champion in the UFC because there's so many different ways to lose, and the title just switches hands every 7 months. He had it for 8 years. I mean,
that's a long ass time.
7 years. I mean, it's a long ass time to have a belt. So he's no joke. And Anderson Silva boxes. So the rub is sort of fight the UFC guy because he spent some time on his hands, but he's also spent some time grappling and jiu-jitsu and kicking and wrestling and doing all the other disciplines. Right. You must spread the day when you're training. You got to spread it out. You cannot focus simply on the hands. But Anderson Silva also boxes professionally. And he had a fight about a year ago. I don't know if he's had a fight since, but I think he won pretty handily. So Anderson is 47 years of age, which is part of the rub too, but he's in pretty damn good shape and he stays active boxing. So
that's the thing. If you're a 47-year-old champion, you're still a champion. It's not like you're decrepit.
Well, he's given up the UFC belt, but he's a former champion, but he still stays active boxing. I don't know, Chris, what the odds makers are saying about this fight. I was reading, get ready with your drop, Tito Ortiz. I was looking into it last night, and Tito sort of did the don't mess with Anderson. He fought Ben Askren. Jake Paul did. Ben Askren is a UFC guy with a very strong wrestling background. So he couldn't use his wrestling. Right. He had to use his hands. And I think Jake made pretty short work of Ben. But this is not Ben. This is a guy who uses his hands. So it should definitely... Silva's favored. Close, minus 130, which is pretty much a push, right, Brian?
Yeah, minus 110 either side would be about even.
Yeah, so it's a tight push, and things may change as we get closer to the fight. They're at a catch weight of 187, which means, some guy. One guy walks around at 210 pounds, and the other guy walks around at 75 pounds. They'll do a catch weight in the middle.
Yeah,
they'll go, here's what we're going to agree to. So they agree to that. But Jake knocked out Tyrone Woodley, who is a big-time UFC guy and a serious striker as well. So he's got his bona fide. So
I wish I had his confidence and discipline. Because like you said, he was a YouTube guy and whatever. And he's like, I can do this. I know what my goal is. I'm going to get there. The only difference is the goal is possibly getting fucking killed in a ring.
Yeah. And he puts the work in. Yeah. Oh, we have Jake meeting Sonny from 2017.
Oh, wasn't Olga with them?
At the putt-putt golf place, I think.
Excuse me?
5
Are
years.
you Jake Paul?
Why are you asking?
We just saw you on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm Jake Paul. Is that your mom?
Oh, no, that's her name.
That's your nanny?
Yeah.
Oh, I never had a nanny growing up.
Oh, she's beautiful. Hi.
Why is everyone trying to date everyone? Ray's hitting on Kaylee over here. Justin's dating a girl.
Sonny walking up to Jake Paul. All right.
That looked like a nice place. That wasn't the castle on Sepulveda in Sherman Oaks.
I think that is the
really?
castle.
That place looked nice.
Yeah, it's the castle,
oh, wow.
Emmy says. Yeah, I'm only saying it through process of elimination because there's just not that many putt-putt golf places in the area. Yeah, that's where Jimmy and I used to go to hit the batting cage after K-Rock.
We did that recently.
Play the video game Violence Fight.
That's right.
And if you're looking for a violence fight, October 29th is where is when this fight's going down in the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. So Tommy Fury pulled out of the fight due to a bacterial chest infection and broken rib.
Ew.
But he also pulled out before that, too, when he couldn't leave the country, I think. So there were two times he stiffed Jake, and then I guess Jake just wants to fight. But Anderson Silva, there's a couple things. A, he knows how to use his hands very well. B, he is unfazed.
I imagine he's seen a lot.
He has walked into that
2,500 days of championship
so many times, and his whole thing is we kind of talk about that with Muhammad Ali. It's the relaxation gene. Half of it is not doing the adrenaline dump that happens when you walk into that arena and they walk into that ring or that cage. He is he's a very loose guy. As a matter of fact, God will think of the fight. It was he had this crazy fight. Chael Sonnen.
Okay. Familiar.
Chael's called into the show a few times. Anderson Silva's greatest fight was with Chael Sonnen. Anderson Silva, and you can look it up, Chris. Anderson Silva, hence his 2,500 days as a champion, was unbeatable. Just considered the most dangerous technique in the world. Chael challenges him. And I don't know if it was in the middle of his run or toward the beginning or whatever. I think it was somewhere in there. He was established as unbeatable. Chael shows up, and Chael's, big on heart, but a little short on technique in that arena. He'd beat your ass in the parking lot, but in that arena, he's all blood and guts, but Anderson's all technique, and he's knocking guys out with front ball kicks and stuff like that. And so Chael announces he's going to beat Anderson Silva. And it's a 5-minute round fight. Proceeds to put a whooping on Anderson Silva for 4 3/4 rounds. I'm looking at Emmy because he probably knows the time. Like, he was beating, and unthinkable that this Rudy type character could beat up Lawrence Taylor. You know what I mean? But that's what happened for 4+ rounds. And then he was so ahead on the cards that the idea was Chael, stay away from him for one round. Give him the 10-8, 10-9. Give Anderson the last round. You just run. Stay away from him, and you're gonna do the biggest upset in UFC history. Chael wanted to finish the fight.
Oh boy!
And he traded. And at some point, Anderson got him in like a submission with a leg lock on his neck and just choked him out with no time.
That's such a movie trope. You got a little cocky.
Left in the fight, the biggest fucking upset ever. That was in 2010. Then they went back and fought again. And this time Anderson wasn't messing around, was what happened. How much time was left in this fight?
Right now we're watching it from 4:46. Well, let me see.
4:46
in round 5. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he tapped, winning the entire fucking fight. It got him in a leg lock.
Kind of rope-a-doped him there a little bit, Kind of lied there, like the wounded tiger. Then snapped.
Kind of getting his strength back.
Well, that's Anderson Silva. All right, Jake's video is screwed up, but we might have him on the line. We'll see if we can pop him up now, or we can just talk more about UFC grades.
I'm
here, guys. I don't know.
Oh, Jake, you there?
Hey, yeah.
Hey, okay. So we've been talking all about it. Anderson Silva. This is a tough match. How did this one come about?
Well, it's just a great matchup, and I like to challenge myself more and more with each fight. And I wanted a professional boxer because everyone says, fight a real boxer. And so I tried. I tried to get Tommy Fury. I tried to get Ramen Noodle Jr., and none of them wanted to get into the ring with me. And the MMA guys seem to have more balls than some of these boxers. So went straight after Anderson Silva. And even though it's a much more difficult fight than a lot of these other guys, I'm stepping up to the plate and challenging myself to put on a show October 29th for the fans. And I believe if I fight a perfect fight, that I can come out on top.
It's going to be an 8-round fight, 8 3-minute rounds, right?
Yeah.
And was the last one with Tyrone Woodley?
Yeah, it was 8 3-minute rounds.
And Tyrone's a pretty accomplished striker from the UFC, so at least you definitely have that under your belt. But Anderson is probably more accomplished than Tyrone, would you say?
Definitely. I think Anderson's the greatest striker in probably combat sports history, has the longest UFC title reign, the most wins in a row. Still to this day, he holds that record. So he's a much better striker than Tyrone for sure.
So you've been training. Walk us through your regimen as you set up camp for training.
Man, it's strength and conditioning. That's weightlifting, sprints, sprint pyramids, lots of jogs, long distance jogs, high level sparring with multiple people, hitting the mitts nonstop, speed bag, heavy bag, lots of recovery, ice baths, red light therapy, stretching.
What kind of psychological work are you doing? Because Anderson Silva is not going to be phased when he sees you on the 29th, just because he's been there and done that so many times. And, that adrenaline dump is really the enemy when you're going out there. Being able to be calm and relaxed just helps, whether you're having sex or boxing or golfing.
Or both.
Or all at the same time, as I'm apt to do. It helps so much. And so many people get beat sort of on the walk up there because they're going into fight or flight and they gas out and they don't time their breathing right. How much psychological work do you do, or at all?
Yeah, a lot of manifestation, a lot of meditation, and a lot of breath work. Focusing on the breath is a skill, and remembering to breathe is a skill, exactly like you're saying. And so that's a a big part of the game. And
yeah,
it's an experience level thing, getting used to fighting in front of that crowd. It's not easy. And that's something that Anderson's done a bunch of times. I've done it a couple times now, but I think he'll have the advantage in terms of experience.
It's funny as you're talking about managing your breathing. I found myself catching myself a couple of times when I was doing car races where at some point in the course of the race, I got a gulp of air. Like where I found myself going, and I realized, I stopped breathing for too long.
Waking sleep apnea.
I literally forgot to breathe.
Yeah.
I was so focused on whatever, and my mouth at a certain point just gulped air like I was chugging water because I'd so focused on something else, I forgot about breathing. And I'm guessing that probably could have happened to you in your first fight. Am I right, Jake?
No, it definitely happened for sure. The biggest skill in boxing is defense and remaining calm and just being okay to relax and knowing that you can defend against punches and just to take deep breaths and staying calm. That's half the battle when you're first starting out. And so you're spot on. And that's one of the things I'm constantly thinking about going into this fight is just, fighting at my pace and taking those breath breaks when needed and to not let the moment get to me. I think that arguably is going to be more important than the fight. Because if we just were thrown in there and sparring, no crowd, whatever, it's just a sparring match, that changes things a lot. And on that level, I think we have the same amount of experience, but he's been in there at the highest level of competition for years and years. And so he definitely has the edge there with remaining calm. And so that's what I'm focusing on going into this fight for sure.
Yeah. And not only does he have the experience, but some fighters and lots of people, some people are just loose people and some people are tight people. Mm-hmm. He's a loose person, even UFC aside. It seems to be relaxed. And when you're relaxed, you can get punches off. Like you can't have a good jab and be stiff and rigid. It slows you down. It's the enemy of speed, is that sort of clinching, so you have to be relaxed in order to get the jab off, in order to be effective. And it's hard to just yell at people when there's 30,000 people in an arena. Relax. You've got to train going into it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we spar with crowd noises on loudspeakers, volume all the way up to mimic that, to get used to it. And it's definitely not easy. And you definitely have to learn the skill for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how I handle the moment, but I'm getting better and better at it with each fight and getting more and more comfortable under the bright lights for sure.
Gina?
Question from somebody who I'm sure speaks for many who's never been in this situation and probably never will be. You talk about defense and breathing and being in the moment. I'm very curious how it feels to take a punch in that situation. Has it gotten easier the more you've done it? Does it hurt the same every time? Do you hype yourself up to not feel it? What's it like?
Yeah, the more punches you take, the more you get used to it. It's a weird thing. At first, when I first started sparring a couple of years ago, the punches hurt way worse. And then at some point you just get used to it and it becomes like second nature. Now it really doesn't hurt. It takes a very, very hard punch with proper timing and placement to stun me at all. And I think that's the same with like very high level fighters. So you just get used to it. And it is kind of crazy though. Like you do feel like a primitive animal when you're in the ring going up against another man for everyone else's entertainment. It does feel very barbaric for sure. And there are times when I'm like bleeding out of my head. I'm like, damn, this is kind of fucking crazy.
Yeah, the thing about getting punched is it doesn't really hurt, but it'll affect you. Sometimes you can't breathe. You know, a guy will get punched in the ribs real hard, take 2 steps forward, and then collapse. It's not collapsing out of pain. It's just bow, or you get your bell rung. You put your foot down, and your foot can't find the canvas, and your leg starts shaking. And then what's next? I know it's a stupid question, but I mean, is it going to be these kinds of fights, or is it going to be rankings and, you know, titles and belts and under the umbrella of like the more conventional boxing as we know it? Are there any thoughts about entering that world?
Yeah, look, I want to fight pro boxers and I want to become a world champion just for fun, just to say I did it, because no one thinks I can. And people, even when I say that now, I think people think it's just like a marketing thing, or I'm like saying it just to draw more attention to myself. But I actually truly do. And I know I can, and I will become a world champion. So that's on the cards next. And there's a lot of people that have talked smack that need to get knocked out. So I have a long list of names, and I'm just checking them off one by one.
Love it.
Who's at the top of your smack talking list?
Please don't say Carolla.
I think the biggest one that everyone wants to see, because of just like the family feud and the storyline, is me versus KSI. He beat my brother, and so I'd go avenge my brother's loss. And he talks the most shit, and I talk a lot of shit back to him. So it's a huge fight. I don't think he'll ever get into the ring with me after he sees me fight on October 29th. But you know, who knows what's next, man? It's kind of crazy. Like, you know, what was it, 2-3 years ago, I was on your show and we're just talking about like the same sort of stuff. And like, you know, you never thought it would be here today. Like,
no,
it's pretty crazy.
No, look, proving people wrong is a big deal. Society's kind of cruel, and we're short on time. So we look at this guy and we go, this YouTube jack off, have fun. But with each fight, there's more respect, obviously, because you're proving it. But I think your real strength is your work ethic. I think it's your determination. I think it's your mindset. Because at a certain point, everyone is 6'2" and 190 pounds. You know what I mean? It really just becomes about the time, the effort, and the commitment, which cannot really be taught. It's kind of an internal thing, and you just have it. Intestinal fortitude or something, but this drive that you have. And I would never bet against someone with a drive, whether they were boxing or whether they wanted to be a stand-up comedian. If that drive, you know, Jimmy Kimmel has incredible drive, right. You know, never bet against the drives. And I think that might be your greatest asset. Thoughts?
I agree, like highly agree. I always say my work ethic's number one, and my will to win. You know, a lot of times in the ring, shit gets tough, and it's easy to find ways out and to quit. But if you just have something in the deepest part of your body, in the deepest part of your bones, where you're just never gonna give up, no matter what, that's what it takes. Because you're so right. How many punches can you throw? We're all 6'2". How much faster are you really than me? You know, like, oh, you know how to throw the punch like a little bit better. Like, no, like at some point it's everyone's on the same level, and it's just like who has that motor and that will to win. So I totally agree with you. And that's why I know I can accomplish these things, is because people just look at face value. Oh, this kid's only been boxing for 3 years. He can't beat Canelo or become a world champion. Well, it's like you said.
I wouldn't bet against you. The fight is on pay-per-view, by the way, Showtime pay-per-view. That's October 29th, and tickets are on sale now. And you can go to the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona on the 29th to watch the fight in person. I shall be watching, and I wouldn't bet against you, Jake this Paul. YouTube jack off. Have fun.
Come on, man.
Thanks, Jake, and continued success, and we enjoy talking to you.
All right.
All right, let's see. Bill Shatner is on the line, so we'll go from one extreme to another. We'll do that in a second. First, I'll tell you about concrete. Your body makes about half the creatine it needs. The other half comes from your diet, but most American diets are low in creatine-rich foods. Concrete, patented creatine. HCl is the favorite creatine of elite, well-informed athletes, the number one bioavailable creatine and the only microdosing creatine. Just one small scoop per 100 pounds, so Jake would need 1 scoop and about 7/8 of a scoop. I'd need 2 scoops and make them heaping. Creatine is required for functional energy in every cell. Your brain uses about 20% of the creatine in your body, but your immune cells need it to protect you, and your heart cells need it to pump, and your lungs need it to breathe. Let's get some concrete. Am I right, Dawson?
Take control of your health, both body and mind. Build a better you with Concrete. Register now at con-crete.com/podcast. That's con-cret.com/podcast. For a chance to win a $500 Walmart Visa gift card, available now online and in-store at Walmart. Concrete is truly life-changing and performance-enhancing.
We'll take a quick break. Be back with William Shatner right after this.
And now, Alcoa presents Definitely Not a Jew on the Adam Carolla Show. Dateline, Topeka, Kansas. A 42-year-old man was sentenced to 6 years in prison for wire fraud after admitting he had no formal training and was charging customers for conducting illegal autopsies. Definitely not a Jew!
William Shatner has now joined us. The book, Boldly Go, Reflections on a Life of Awe and Wonder. Wherever you find finer books, just dropped, so go out and get it now. It's a collection of personal essays and revealing stories from his life. Good to see you, Bill.
Good to see you, my dear friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. I think as you get older, you start to examine people who are doing it right and people who maybe aren't doing it right. And some of it is genetics. A lot of it's genetics. But then there are your Bill Shatners or your Alan Dershowitzes, or it's like they're sharp.
Your Sid
they're
Crofts.
Fast. Your Sid Crofts. Because I think it's I get up and do 50 push-ups every day and I never miss a day. And somehow I blink my eyes and I'm 91 and I can still rattle off 42 push-ups because I don't miss a day. But I don't know. For you, is it you're so sharp, your mind is great, your physicality is great. You come from stock? Did your parents last a long time?
Just good Eastern European stock. Yeah, worked in the fields and did pulled the plows, and I guess it must be genetics, but it's also, Adam, you do your show and you inquire and you're looking and it's interesting, and that's, I think, the secret, keeping that curiosity alive, and if opportunity presents itself to do something that you haven't done, go do it. I mean, you're old and you might as well die early than wait around and dwindle off.
Well, the curiosity is interesting because it's a lot like generosity, and curiosity should be looked at the same way, which is, I always say, the most generous person I'm associated with is Jimmy Kimmel, and he's also the wealthiest. And he was always generous. And so you go, and then I know people...
Define generous. What is generous?
He's generous with his time, number one, generous with his information and abilities, and then...
But he holds on to his money, I see.
Oh, with both hands, that penny pincher. No, he's generous by every definition of the word generous. I don't want people to think it's about cutting checks to nieces and nephews. He's monetarily generous, but he's also sort of spiritually generous. When I was at K-Rock in 1994, he was meeting me there at 4:30 in the morning and helping me put my bits together for no reason other than that's what he did, But I started thinking about the people I know who I went to high school with and certain family members who are the least generous people I know. And then it would stand to reason that they would have the most because they don't share their time or money. They keep their time and money, but yet they have the least.
They're not exactly thriving.
And then I started thinking, I think it's you being generous that creates these relationships that does get you the things you want in life, financially as well. And now I'm starting to think about that in terms of curiosity, because I think Shatner's a very curious guy. I know because I had dinner with him and all he did was ask me questions the entire time. And
Who are you? What are you doing here?
There's a part.
How'd you get to my table?
There's a part. No.
What do you want to eat?
Why are you sitting down?
Can I have some of your food? You know, that kind of thing.
But when you think of being curious, you think of it, all right, for having a conversation, I'm asking you all about you, what you did and how you got here in your life. Then that makes you the person who's being sort of magnanimous, like let the other person speak. But I think it's the same as being generous, and that you're ending up with more from the conversation.
Oh, I agree. And part of what you do is conduct interviews, and you look, you try and find out the story of the person, what's their uniqueness, and suddenly you're vesting your interest in somebody else other than yourself. We're in the business where what's my publicity? How much am I getting paid? What is it? And you're always about you. You gotta. That's our business, entertainment. To get out of that and to go to somewhere else, somebody else, some other cause, some other thing, is a necessity. Otherwise, you become a hoarder. You hoard your money, your time. You don't go anywhere. You don't want to do anything because it's yours, and you're not going to display it or give it away or be generous with it. And I think that is conducive to aging quickly. I think it's a definite factor because the broad part of that is giving yourself, getting other interests, moving out, finding new things. Those are the things I think keep you young.
You know, I'll word this delicately, but it's good that you've been around for as long as you've been around, because I think you've had a cycle in terms of the zeitgeist of America. I think America respects Bill Shatner more now than we did 15 years ago. Now, you may not experience it because you're living it, but I would say if you stopped your average American in 2006 and said Bill Shatner, they'd go, "Oh, that guy does those wacky albums. Who's the Star Trek captain? Kind of
Boston Legal,
kind of a caricature type actor." If you stop the average American now, they'd go, "Oh, the guy went and orbited outer space and loves horses and has done more things that we would probably consider more substantial or something." So if you'd kicked off when you were 81 or 77 and a half, you'd then go down in history as that guy versus hanging on and going down as you're going to go down.
You know, the essence of science is to project a theory, come up with a theory, and then have facts to substantiate that theory. There's a black hole. What do you mean a black hole? Yeah, and I've got this and this and this. Oh, right, you're right, it's a black hole. So you're being a scientist, right? You're giving a thesis here, and you're about to supplant it with facts. I think you're wrong.
Well, I'm curious what your thoughts are on it.
I don't know. All I know is that I'm incredibly busy. And this book, Boldly Go, is a kind of effort to show how I believe there's entanglement in the universe, that we are entangled with the universe, and we belong to nature. And the number of instances of dramatic instances of how we are bound to nature, some of which I have in the book, which I have read and studied. we are intricately bound by our affinity, our belonging to nature. Everything is vibrating together. We're all one. And it presupposes that perhaps there isn't coincidence that this little radio tower that we have in our house, on our heads, giving off electric chemical signals. If we can get a signal from the Voyager from way, way out there, apparently the amount of electricity to light a bulb is what either was or is being given off, and we can read it from billions of miles away. Why can't we, sitting next to each other or some distance away, be giving off these electric signals that are in harmony with everything else that's giving off these signals? And so when you think of somebody and they call, you say, my God, I was just thinking about you. Is it a coincidence, or is it an example of tuning into this vibrating universe?
No, I agree. I have been called semi-clairvoyant on occasion, but I feel like it's just because I tune in. It's not really about coincidence or soothsaying or anything like that.
It's there
just,
if you're paying attention.
You just have to sort of pay attention to things.
Awareness.
Like a good detective walks into a house and can just sort of feel that things aren't right. But it's not a weird sort of gypsy soothsayer thing. It's
someone
just
with the name Jay. No, you just get the idea.
Yes, you get the idea.
Down through the ages, one form or another of prayer or incantation or meditation or the Tibetan pipes or alms or any of the variety of things we have used over the ages to sort of tune in. And what are we tuning into? And I think it's this vibrating universe. And I also think that as a result, the universe seems to take care of you. And I try to show an arc using music of a really failure of the first album I had to this triumph in Kennedy Center a few months ago, which will result in another album and a television documentary on my performance at Kennedy Center. There is something that human beings have done in long before recorded history that says there's a mystery out there, and I don't know whether it's pearly gates. That doesn't make much sense to me, but where does that energy go? I'm holding on to a lead rope of a great horse that I owned, who now foundered on all 4 feet, which is a death sentence. So I was able to get to him and take him into a field where we had dug a hole where we knew we were going to bury him. And the vets came along, and just before the vet put the shot into him, he became aware. And suddenly this vibrant stallion became a great stallion for a moment. And then shortly after that, the vets gave him a shot to euthanize him. And he crumbled and he fell into the hole. So there was this energy, there was this vibrant being that in an instant was jelly. What happened? Where did all that go?
So you're saying it went somewhere other than the hole, I guess is what...
Well, the body went into the hole.
Right. Where did the energy go?
Where did this energy go? Where did this vibrant energy go? And where does this, what people can refer, I don't know, the soul, the energy, the life force, the thing, where does it go? Does it all, boom, you're dead and that's it? That's the end of that thing?
Well, I don't know if we were talking about this, and I may have been talking about it to somebody else, but somebody asked me, as kind of an atheist, agnostic atheist, where does it go? Do you just die? Do you cease to be? And I said it goes into the memory that you left with everyone around you, and that's your legacy, essentially. So the horse is gone, but the horse's energy is in your description of the horse to us.
Okay, so now I die a few years later, and that's the end of the horse and me. So we will lose the story of the horse, and people will talk about me for about a month. Hey, no, he died? Really? Oh, what a shame. Oh, I'm glad he did.
Well, it's sort of, two of the Beatles are gone, but every time you turn on the radio and hear the Beatles, then the group's back together. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's
a mechanical thing.
It is mechanical, but
it brings you back to that time.
When you go, God willing, before me, I will have your energy and our experiences and our interactions and our stories. I will log that, including some of the horse story as well. You have transferred your superhero horse into me now.
That's a really good thesis. And so people like your family are your legacy.
Oh boy, you're
but there is no legacy, Adam. There's no legacy in terms of the reality of time, which is immeasurable. We go by a day and a month, and that's not time. That's just recording of how you get through these periods of sunshine and darkness. Time is measured in billions of years. There's a book I've started to read about the prehistoric animals, and 100,000 years goes by. That's time. A few weeks, a month, a year, 10 years, and they're pulling down the statues, and they're changing the face of the building, and you no longer have a legacy. The legacy is in doing good deeds. The legacy is helping somebody else, and then that person says, oh, I'm going to help somebody else, and that reverberation.
I have a question, and Brian and Gina have questions as well, but it just reminded me of something. Two things. First off, think about it. I'll pitch it to your people after we hang up. A YouTube show called Doing Mushrooms with Bill Shatner. You and I just sit in a room and we just do mushrooms, and you launch off on these stories.
And you nod.
And I nod. Favorite nations, of course. Number one.
But you're not allowed to nod off, right?
No, I'll be nodding, wearing sunglasses and nodding. The next thing that I had to pose to you that I was going to bring up to Gina and Brian as well, as you're talking about the memory and the generosity or the legacy or whatever we're calling it. I was having a philosophical discussion with Dr. Drew this morning, and I said, I turn on the TV and it's nothing but commercials, and it's a lot of commercials for medication. So people are depressed, so they show them in a bathrobe sitting around the house, and then there's a medication, it's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, and you take this or you do that, and then there's other commercials where people are active, and it's for copper fit wristbands, whatever. I said, everyone should really think about their life. Let's just take your waking hours during the day, or just a work day, 8 a.m., whenever you get up till supper time. If we film that, what kind of commercial would it be, and what would it be for? Because if it could be for constipation or anxiety medication, or it could be, it could be one of these uplifting products, or maybe it's, like I said, you want the copper fit knee brace, because that's you playing tennis and getting out, or playing a pickup game with Jerry Rice and Brett Favre. It's like everyone should philosophically go, we're randomly filming you over the course of 6 months.
And we're going to turn this into a medication commercial, one way or the other.
What is it? Or just a commercial for you fill in the blank. What would it be?
That's great.
Well, you mentioned constipation. I think what you meant to say was meditation. Constipation and meditation are two different things. Although you can meditate on constipation.
That's right.
That's true. Hopefully move things along.
All right, Gina.
You have such a grand sort of understanding of the universe and these theories, and it's really I love hearing it. I'm wondering how much of your actual space travel was affected by that, and because I remember the interview of you coming back down and just obviously being in awe of what you'd experienced. I'm wondering how that factors in to the way you see the universe.
Well, what happened was when I came back down, and none of this was, I mean, who knew? I thought it was going to be an innocuous up and down. And that would have been for me and my telephone camera. It turned out everybody was watching. But when I came down and I was overwhelmed by emotion, I couldn't figure out what it was. Why was I crying? I realized I was grieving for the earth. I was grieving for what I saw down there and my sense of the beauty of earth and the fact that we've screwed it up and we're screwing. We see dramatic bits like Florida, but we're not seeing. For example, I drove a month or so ago from here to San Francisco, stopped a while, and drove back, San Joaquin Valley. And I had one insect splat on my windshield. All the insects are going. All the insects are going. Now, we've heard about it, but I'm telling you, in one of the most fruitful areas of the world where insects are supposed to abound, and I'm driving at 70, 80 miles an hour, you'd think I'd have to clean my windshield off. That's what's happening. Underneath, Florida, underneath all that is something far more devastating. And I'm aware of that because I've studied that, I've read, I talk, and I thought, my God, this beautiful rock, this tiny little rock, this beautiful thing that I'm looking at down there is infested by this cancer that we are. And we've got to do something about it. What I found interesting was the arc from the book, the first chapter of which is an album that I tried to do something with, and Johnny Carson, and how it failed, and to this performance that I had recently at Kennedy Center, and making all that film and the album and the success of it. And I thought, and as a result of that success, there was a song. Robert Chernow and I were writing the lyrics to the song. We wrote a song called So Fragile, So Blue about my journey up there and back and what we're missing. And it's an enormously powerful song. And we did it to the National Symphony Orchestra, and it was big hit, screaming and yelling. We're going to make it into a music video. And my dream, my fervent dream, is that it becomes like We Are the World.
Like an anthem.
It lends itself there are several instances in which the statement, what can we do? What can we do? Is repeated. And it's perfect for celebrities to do what they did on We Are the World. It could be a call to arms, and that's my dream. And that's all part of what I was writing about.
Were you performing at the Kennedy Center with Ben Folds?
Ben Folds, yes. I did one number with Ben. He's the artistic director there.
I'm in love with Ben Folds.
I'm in love with Ben Folds, too. I was there first.
I don't know. When did you get on the Ben Folds train?
Because we did an album 30, 40 years ago.
Beat that.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I've always thought he was a genius. I've always loved his music. I loved his lyrics. I loved his playing. Always great, self-deprecating.
Well, he's a wonderful guy, and he's gone through the milk. There's many things, and he's this great musician. And I have known him, and we not lost track because every so often but we did a wonderful album called. Is it
called Has Been?
Has Been.
Yeah, I'm looking at my screen. I didn't just pull that out of my
called
head.
Has Been. And there are some numbers there that we did. I wrote some lyrics, he wrote music, and he just produced that album, and it was a big thing. And so over the years, and now, and again, we're talking about symmetry, the entanglement. So he calls, and I just written. Robert Chernow, Dan Miller, and I had just written an album called Bill, which is out there now on Spotify. It got reviews like breathtaking, and now it's out there so you can be accessed. But we had we enjoyed the songwriting process so much, we had all these other songs left over. And so when he said, "Can you entertain at the Opera House?" I said, "We got it." So this 65-piece orchestra, the National Symphony, and people wrote orchestrations for all our songs. It became a big deal, and it is a big deal. But the biggest deal of all is if we can accomplish this So Fragile, So Blue, it may be the reason I'm here.
Brian had a question.
I did. I had a couple observations based on what you were saying earlier about the horse and the energy. First of all, small observation. You guys are describing through your memory living on. Your memory lives. Your spirit lives as long as people remember you. It's the plot of Coco, says the great Pixar movie. But number two, you described the horse and the energy and where does it go. And it feels like there's this fundamental separation, right, between science and faith. You have to choose one or the other. It can't be both. But we have the law of the conservation of energy, right? There's only so much energy in the world. It cannot be created or destroyed. It just gets moved around. And that's kind of what Bill's describing in a spiritual sense. So there is common ground amongst the science and the
there's common ground and there's uncommon ground. There's common ground and you see something physical happening and you form this thesis and you do a scientific thing, black holes. Okay. But there's uncommon ground in that those are physical things that are measurable and generally given a shelf life of about 20 years and suddenly it doesn't work anymore and new advances denigrate that observation. So suddenly you say, well, where did mountains come from? And 100 years ago, after these millions of years of guys looking at mountains, and where did that come from? Oh, tectonic plates. Tectonic plates! So there's this evolving science and the mystery remains the same.
Just to switch gears completely, I think a lot of people would like to be in your shape at the ripe old age of 91. Is there something you do? What is your regimen? What is the exercise? Is saunas, cold dunks, special diets, horses? Horses.
The secret, my secret, is you book the Adam Carolla show, and you get real tense, real nervous about getting on, and you start to pace back and forth. You do a lot of walking. What's he going to ask me? How's he going to go? And you stay in shape by booking the Adam Carolla show.
Oh, I will write that down.
Working out your nerves.
Yeah. Seriously.
I don't do anything. I swim. I ride horses.
Yes. You're active.
Yeah. Oh, very active.
I'll tell you one thing I like about Bill Shatner, and this is an old school thing. When we were eating dinner, at some point the waitress came by and he said, I'd like a beer. And she was like, what kind? Because now there's 7,000 beers. And he just went, beer? Because for you, well, let's see, you're Canadian, so you probably started drinking beer about 12. And from age 12 to age 79 and a half, beer had remained unchanged. And then in the last 12 years, there's 700,000 beer varieties now.
And we'll try each one of them until we find our favorite.
Right. But I like my grandfather was that way. He wanted a beer.
Yeah.
He would literally go to the Lucky supermarket in North Hollywood and buy generic beer because it was a can that said beer on it.
But American beer doesn't make it. American beer is too piss,
but this is Laszlo Gorog from Hungary. So the whole thing with beer is you have to drink the beer that's not made in your home country.
Right.
Sure.
So we're born here, we have to drink the stuff from Germany or Japan. But if you're born in Europe, then you have to drink generic Lucky
PBR.
Brand beer.
But there are people who stand around making beer like they're cooking a great meal. It's great.
I wholeheartedly agree. So for you, it's your longevity is being active, being engaged.
Here is what I think, and again, I believe it's in the book. Tectonic plates.
That's you.
I think it's cultivating the inner child and going with that curiosity that a child has of open wonderment about everything. Never take for granted your life, your moment, the love, the day, the sun. Stay aware as much as possible. Horses teach you that. As a prey animal, they don't care about the lion that nearly got them yesterday, and they're not thinking about the lion that might get them tomorrow. They're saying, "Is there a lion around here now? No, I guess not. So let's pay. Whoa, is that a lion there now? No. Let's pay attention here." And they're living in the now.
Yeah, I agree. No, I mean, obviously, the amount of time we spend living in the past and or the potential future, oftentimes a negative future.
Yeah.
Everyone would be embarrassed if they were laying on their deathbed and someone gave them the tally.
It's all fantasy.
Here's what it added up to.
It doesn't exist. Yesterday doesn't exist.
You reliving something that happened, or you worrying about something that could possibly happen. And look, I don't think you're ever going to avoid that. The question is what's the tally? Can you be on the lower end of the spectrum of the people that were living in the past and lamenting, or feeling like they got screwed over or jobbed in one way or the other, or the future fears and anxiety of what lay around the next corner? It'll always exist. It's sort of like saying you have a factory. It's the Keebler factory. You make cookies. You make thousands and they come down the conveyor belt. There's going to be a certain amount of broken cookies that cannot go into the box, and you're going to lose money on. That's kind of life. The question is the ratio. How many broken cookies does your conveyor belt have? And if it's a very low amount, an acceptable amount, there is no such thing as zero broken cookies. There's just a low acceptable amount for you to have a successful Keebler factory and or metaphor for life. So many people have the ratio off. It's impossible not to look back and lament. The question is how often?
And that brings up the nature of luck or lack of entanglement, or however you want to put it. Some people in their lifetime just don't have it, don't make it. I mean, you look at they tell you the story of their life. You think, my God, that's the worst luck I've ever heard. Slipped on a banana peel. What are you doing?
Yeah, I find that you can usually shift that story to slipped on a banana peel, but at some point they were barefoot and drunk and running through the produce department of Albertsons, and now it is avoidable. You know what I mean?
Well, that may be, but it may not be. Haven't you ever met? I met a guy who had the best luck of all. A directionless little kid in Somalia herding goats, who becomes a rocket engineer in Florida in his mature life. The luck involved in becoming from a sheep herder with no education to a senior rocket engineer, sending off rockets right as we speak, is a life of luck. That is good luck. On the other hand, you have Prince Andrew. I mean, it's just it's unfortunate.
That a lot of things have to line up to get you to that place.
That's right. That's right. And mostly it's your health. If you have your health, I mean, it's like your mother talking. Hey, dear, if you have your health, you got everything. But if you have your health, if you're not being dragged down by your inability to breathe, if you've got pain and you're in pain all the time, that saps you of everything. Ill health.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I feel like there's a connection between passions and engagement and longevity. It seems,
I think so too.
It seems to me that that there is this way to go, I'm so passionate about my art or horses or
tectonic plates.
I'm so passionate about this that I have to hang out for an extended period of time in order to satisfy this.
A reason for living. So, and that's what it is. What about that lady? I can't get her out of my mind. That snapshot of her son who swam to her apartment. It was like a half a mile in Florida, and there's a snapshot. I think he took it of her up to her upper chest in water, and she's turned back to the camera with her face in horror. I mean, she couldn't move, and she was up to water here, and her son swam to get her out of the house a half a mile.
Yeah.
What? I mean, is that luck, or is that devotion, or is that, I mean, what is that?
Well, we're all capable of a lot if we have to do a lot. Like if we're put in that situation, you know what I mean? Like we're all capable of getting exercise if we're being chased by a bear. But the question is how do you give yourself that sort of sense of urgency when the TV's running and there's a pot roast in the oven, and you don't have to simulate that or create that. I
think for most of us, you do have to have a brush with a bear.
Right.
Self-motivation.
Yeah.
Boy, that's big.
That's big.
And have you always been as motivated? Are you more motivated now because you feel like the clock is ticking, or were you this way when you?
That's a big factor.
When you're 50.
Like say, yeah, let's do that. I said, no, let's do it now.
Right.
Because I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, one of the mysteries that I face every day is, what are the symptoms of dying?
Heart stops, I think, is probably number one.
Oh, do you know your heart has stopped?
I don't. I'm more of an observer of others dying.
Right, of other hearts. But I mean, seriously, when you get out of bed, you go, oh, God, I don't feel well. Are you dying, or is it just the pizza you had last night?
Yeah, so you feel more motivated at 91 than you did at 51?
Absolutely. I got to get it done now. I want to make that music video now. I have this devotion. I have this mission. I have a mission to see if I can get that music video done before I pass on. And if I can it's so good. It's so right. It feels so right. It's so entangled with everything I've done, the book, the album, the thing. If I could just get this music video done the way I dream it being done, and it has the effect, I'd be, I was going to say I'll be ready to die. No, I'll be ready to go on to the next thing.
Last question. George Takei talking any shit lately?
I used to joke about that, but the poor man is really, I pity the, I pity the poor fool. Who said that?
Mr. T.
I pity the poor fool. He's more to be pitied than censured.
Yeah, I agree. There's a couple of people who have been in my life who've done that, and I'm mostly confused. I'm mostly like, why are you burning energy on me
with time has gone by. Okay, you had a beef, whatever your beef was. Well, you didn't turn up at a publicity event. Okay, I was working. Yeah, okay.
That was in 1966.
Yeah, I mean, how about letting it all go and do something nice for somebody else? I mean, it's so ill that I can't pay it any mind because there's a sadness involved. There's a sickness there, I think.
Yeah, and like I said, also sort of a confusion. Like most of the people I've gotten into with this sort of situation, I want to go, I don't even know you. You don't really know me. Why?
No,
of all people, like, okay, my sister hates me. I get it. She knows me well. She has perfect opportunity to hate me. But you, I don't even know if I've met some of these people before. Where did this come from? Right. And then how much time are you out there composing songs to save the world, or breaking Shetland ponies, or writing novels and books and bios? And yes, I agree. And one last question for you, Bill Shatner, because I'm very impressed. Speak to, and this is going to be a little cathartic, because I spent the first part of my life not knowing you could do anything because I came from that kind of family. And so I would watch the Brady Bunch episode where they went to Hawaii, and I would go, how do you go to Hawaii? And everyone would look at me and go, you don't. Nobody goes to Hawaii. I don't know what this is. This is Sherwood Schwartz at his worst, Right. And then at a certain point, I started running into people like the aforementioned Jimmy Kimmel, and, he'd go, well, let's do a TV show. And I'd go, who's going to let us do a TV show? And he goes, well, we'll do it, And then you started realizing the more stuff you do, the more stuff you do. I mean, you have an idea, and the next thing you know, you're just off. I want to make a documentary. I want to write a book. Like, pow, gone, done. You have a wealth of that and it's invisible. And it doesn't mean you're smarter or more ambitious than you were before you had this, but you have this experience where you go, I want to do a video. I want to make a song. I want to save the planet. And it actually sounds feasible versus you at age 14 thinking it.
Right. Everybody, the most anointed person in the world, the Pope, President, we're all the same. They have the same hopes, ambitions. I mean, they're all filled with the same trepidations we are. We're all the same. And you could speak to the Queen might not have answered you because it interfered with the regulatory system. But if you got her alone and you said, God, the crown weighs a lot, doesn't it? Both figuratively. And she said, well, it does, dear. She would, you could converse with anybody on any human level because everybody feels the same, whether they're behind a desk at a network or behind a desk at a microphone, being an engineer. Everybody feels the same. And if you can get them on that level, they're all the same. Let's go to Hawaii. Let's do a musical.
Yeah, there's so many people who have not had that experience, and so they can't fall back on it. I was thinking about you a little bit and that experience as I was hiking through Zion National Park a couple days ago, and I thought, I looked around and I basically saw
tectonic plates.
I did. I saw tectonic plates. No, you know what I saw? I saw white people and people from foreign lands. And I thought, if we could get people from the cities out here to see this, I think it would completely change their perspective versus the concrete and the asphalt and the graffiti and the garbage and the homelessness or whatever. And I felt bad that I didn't see a mix of diverse group there at all. At one point, I did see like a black couple coming down the trail and then found out they were speaking French, and I was like, oh, this is not what I was thinking of. But I think it's out there. It's just so many people don't know it exists and will never experience it, and they should.
Well, and you don't need to go to Zion National Park as much as everybody should. You can go to a park and look at a blade of grass or a tree. Or if you have a dog or a child, a 2-year-old romping in the grass, I mean, everything is new. You can look at the things around you. There's a tree somewhere. That tree is sending off signals, intelligence. There's an intelligence that is measurable in a tree. It feeds its young. So you could have that experience, not with the tectonic plates, but with the revelation of knowledge, the revelation of knowledge. You can have that anywhere.
A good note to go out on. Boldly Go, Reflections on a Life of Awe and Wonder. Wherever you find finer books, it's out as we speak. And Bill, I'm really glad we've gotten to become friends over the recent years. It's always such a joy to speak to you, and I hope we can speak again.
And I feel the same way about you. We got to get Ben Folds in on the mix.
Well, next time you tell him, make sure and tell him how much I love him as well.
I will.
The great Bill Shatner. Thank you for joining us.
It's a joy to talk to you guys. Thank you so much.
All right, let me tell you about Crowd Health. House, career, marriage, putting life on autopilot guarantees disappointment. And same with health. Open enrollment is here. Take charge of your health care. Crowd Health. Fund your health care without relying on big government or big insurance. No exclusive doctor networks, huge premiums, high deductibles, exclusions, or co-pays. No surprises. Pay one low monthly total to fund your account. Your monthly subscription helps fund healthcare costs for the entire Crowd Health community. Only pay the first $500 of any healthcare event. Crowd Health helps you find great care at a fair price. Always pays doctors quickly and negotiates to keep costs down. It is Crowd Health, right, Dawson?
Take charge of your healthcare today with Crowd Health. Open enrollment is the only time you can hit eject on the broken system without penalty, so don't wait. And for a limited time, join for just $99 per month for your first 6 months. And when you use promo code Adam at joincrowdhealth.com, that's joincrowdhealth.com, promo code Adam. Crowd Health is not health insurance. It's a totally different way of paying for health care. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, quick break, back with a little bit of news right after this.
Well, big, hot, semi-breaking news that is really affecting people personally. Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen seem to be ending their marriage. They both have hired lawyers, it seems, according to Page Six. People,
I can't talk about that.
I'm telling you, people have thoughts. The couple have been living separately for the past couple months following a fight, allegedly over Tom returning to the NFL. Tom and Gisele have been married since February 2019. Is that it?
19?
That can't be right. That can't be right. That was in the article.
Seem like long enough.
No, because their children, first of all, are 12 and 9. Unless they were,
married
late to the
2009, maybe.
That makes more sense.
Thank you, Page Six. Tom Brady's net worth, if you're interested, because these are always very accurate. 250 million. Gisele, approximately 400 million.
Now that's what you want, man.
Land on their feet. I have a scary guess though that I don't really want to put out into the ether, but do you think Pete Davidson's going to date Gisele?
Oh, I've been seeing
you
that
might date Tom
around. Yeah, he gets to date whoever he wants. It seems, look, there's got to be a lot of pressure. If you want to be with Tom Cruise or anyone named Tom,
sure.
There's going to be a lot of pressure.
Tom Hardy.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You just have to,
Hanks.
It's going to be, you're going to be the lazy one. You're going to be the one in the closet eating the snack wells, and they're going to find the wrapper.
Sneaking bagels to your kids for breakfast.
Yes. It's going to be, I think that's going to be pressure. It's always weird, the conceit of I'm going to divorce this person and never see them again because I wanted to see them more, but I had to do it on a limited basis.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing. It's like somebody said, like, I love In-N-Out burgers. Well, you can only eat In-N-Out burger once a month. Well, then fuck it, never.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like, well, if I really loved In-N-Out burger, then I would settle with the once a month In-N-Out
day every month.
burger run. So if the argument is this, she wanted him to be at home. And by the way, what does that even mean for Tom Brady at home?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In one wing of the mansion versus
Right,
the
but
other.
who knows what plans they were making for their future? Who knows what they were going to do, going to move, going to do with the kids? And he said, nope, we're stuck doing this. And she's like, well, fuck it, I don't want to do that.
Pure speculation. Maybe the kids were, acting out because their dad wasn't home. Might have been misbehaving. Maybe
Who
like
knows?
going through some shit.
But then people don't retire from their jobs at 44 and a half. They have careers. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't he go into analysts or play
yeah, what I'm saying is Mark Garagos is, 64. He's not retiring. He's gone.
Right.
He's working. This conceit of like, you're 42, that's enough. It's sort of like, well no,
yeah.
you're working. Everyone works.
But when you have a combined total of almost $1 billion, maybe she did say, fuck it, it's time for us to chill. Who knows? Maybe she wanted to get back into modeling. Who fucking knows?
That said, I happen to know Tom Brady's got plenty of stuff, lined up. He's going down the Kobe route, producing films, doing all sorts of stuff. So I don't think, retirement, of course, that's not the retirement we all think of.
Right.
But is she going, I don't want him to get injured, or is she going, I don't want him to be distracted in a way? And or there is an entire off season in sports. But
does Tom Brady have an off season switch?
It sounds like to me like she would like to have a drink and chillax a little bit, and he's the motor man who's never gonna chillax. But if it's solely about playing another year of football, the season is 4 months or whatever. You have to build into it, but there is a longish off season. Mark Garagos doesn't have an off season; he just works. You know what I mean?
I wonder how much the Dolphins falling apart thing had to do with this. You're familiar, Tom? Well, after he left and retired from New England, there were some backdoor dealings, backroom dealings, whatever you call it, with the Dolphins, where he's going to become a part owner of the team and play for the team and live in Miami. I'm sure Gisele would rather live in Miami part-time than Tampa. No offense, Tampa listeners, but she's a worldly supermodel.
Yeah, I think him retiring and then coming out of retirement in 40 days or whatever it was probably knocked over the first domino.
Or maybe she's just not that into him, and this is just an excuse. Maybe she wanted...
She's playing the long game.
Yeah.
I don't know how stimulating Tom Brady would be to hang around and talk to. I think you have to admire his motor, but I don't know if you're just hanging around and talking like Shatner-esque. I think you'd probably rather have a beer with Shatner.
I think so.
Not the first beer, the 151st beer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the first beer, you'd want Brady. We should figure this out, Chris, but
How many beers?
You would like your first beer with him, but you'd like your 150th beer with Shatner and your 150 through 2000 with Shatner, but Brady you'd like that first beer with.
I think you're speaking Gisele's coded language, and maybe she's just kind of over it.
How does she have? I don't care. She has $400 million.
She's going to land on her feet for sure.
Is he going to take money off of her?
Yeah, I wonder how that works.
I'm sure there's ironclad prenups. Yes.
They
both got it together, and they're very famous and wealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck to both of them. I hope they find what they're looking for. Let's talk Alec Baldwin. So a couple new developments. He settled the lawsuit that from the fatal shooting on the set of Rust. So in terms of his agreement with the family of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, those haven't been disclosed. But his lawyer, Luke Nikas, says throughout this difficult process, everyone has maintained the specific desire to do what's best for Helena's son. The Hutchins family sued Baldwin as the producer on set, saying the proper safety precautions weren't taken, though unlikely, New Mexico could still charge Baldwin with a crime. But again,
they're
they
going
say that's
back
unlikely.
and completing the film.
Meanwhile,
Two.
yes, they are going back, and Helena's widower, Matthew, will be a co-producer on the film. So I assume that's another revenue stream for the family.
Back to Garagos, like when he was screaming, don't do those interviews with Baldwin.
Don't stop on the side of the road. Don't talk to Leslie Stahl.
He sat down with, what's his name? Stephanopoulos?
Was
Who
it?
did he sit down
I thought
with?
It was a woman. I could be wrong.
Oh, was it a woman?
Yeah, that's why I said Leslie Stahl, but I could be wrong about her.
He sat down with somebody, and Garagos like, don't do it. Never do it. Always comes back to bite you in the ass, because he was like, he didn't squeeze the trigger, and the FBI forensic guy says the trigger was squeezed, and now you put yourself into some jeopardy. Chris will find it. But they're going to finish the picture. Did you see Bros?
I did.
Was it good?
Yes.
Oh, it is good.
It is good. Yeah. It's an elevated rom-com. Listen, I'm not going to convince anyone to see it or not see it. You're either in or you're out. No pun intended. It's smart. The fundamental flaw with Bros, I think, is that rom-coms, I've seen a lot, Gina, I'm sure you've seen many, you can watch them with your brain half on or mostly off. This movie's smart, and it asks you to keep your brain on and makes you think. And I don't think a lot of people are going to enjoy that aspect of a rom-com, gay or not.
It's a compliment, though.
Say that's the only reason I want to see it now.
It's a good movie. It's objectively good. I don't see how many people could say thumbs down.
The only rom-com I like.
It's getting good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, and that's the thing. Everyone's like,
but
of course it
it
is.
tanked.
Nobody went to see it.
I have thoughts on that, too. People outside of, real movie enthusiasts, people go to see movies for movie stars. A-list movie. What's the last movie you saw in the theater?
Oh,
do you remember?
Nope.
Yeah, there
Just
you go.
answer the question. Stop being so negative.
But because of it was Jordan.
This cast
Peele.
is good and funny and great performances top to bottom. They're not household names. And that's
Tops
not
and bottoms.
Yeah, not their fault. It's just people aren't going to, the general audience, our moms are going to flock out to the theater to see a movie starring people they don't know.
All right, back to
Interesting.
Tom Terrific.
Now I want to see the movie. So.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
Rust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Hollywood
back on.
will finish any movie with tragedy.
I guess so.
Yeah,
I think this one was, I thought this one was so publicized that it was like Dahmer's apartment building or something, and we got to tear it down.
On Twilight Zone, the movie, the lead actor and two others got fucking sliced in half.
I get it, but that was '89.
True.
Like now it's everywhere, and also our sensibilities have changed. Like we used to be kind of the show must go on.
Right.
We're a little bit take a seat, relax.
Someone died on the set of The Dark Knight, and they came out.
I had no
that's
idea.
right. Stepping up,
Was it
Stephanopoulos.
I thought it was a woman. I don't know who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know one of the few Hollywood movies, you might not know this because it never came out, to be abandoned when the director / star was killed on set? It was the guy who I think did Death Race. You can look that up. He was going to do a follow-up to that, like a real action-y car race type movie. And I think a pole, like he crashed into a pole and like fell on him and killed him while doing a stunt or something. And they just scrapped the whole picture. This is like circa 1980.
Yeah, well, that did happen, I think,
I'm getting some details wrong, obviously, but that's basically...
Are you thinking of Gone in 60 Seconds?
Oh, that might be it. The original Gone in 60 Seconds?
Yeah, the guy got crazy
might have done
last
both.
name. No, he did Gone in 60 Seconds, I think, and then he was going to follow it up and, like, flew an airplane into a telephone pole or something.
Some tragedy
and he had
involving a giant
like
pole.
A.J. Kowalski or something. He had like it's sort of crazy. Who did Gone in the original Gone in 60 Seconds? Or God damn it, because Gone in 60 Seconds was Ron Howard. This guy did something else. Chris will
I had him in mind as whatever I said earlier. The Death Race, but it was one of those movies.
It wasn't Death Race. It was Kowicki or something. The guy's name is like A.J. Kowicki or something. And I think he did the original Gone in 60 Seconds, which is he just shot kind of renegade and without permits and stuff in Los Angeles and became like a big cult classic. One more. Chris will find it. Someone will find it.
Well, let's move on to Whoopi Goldberg.
Who did the original Gone in 60 Seconds?
It was H.B. Halicki.
Well, it couldn't be A.J.
It could be A.J.
Kowalski.
Kowalski.
Yeah, so that's a totally different dude. Yeah, all
he
right.
die then
I'm going to
subsequently?
go with that guy.
Okay.
AJ.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still just looking for the information before I chime in here, so just give me a sec.
All right.
It's never stopped before.
So Whoopi Goldberg was criticized for wearing a fat suit in the movie Till that people are talking about. You know, the Emmett Till story. The
It's
only
called
problem.
sweatpants for Whoopi.
Well, she agrees. She wasn't wearing a fat
Oh,
suit.
no.
Oh, I mean,
No.
listen.
So she's
you
going to
know
talk
that.
about it.
Listen, I got to tell you something. Whether you're, a rap star or whomever, Whoopi Goldberg comes out in the View. She's wearing a judicial robe at this point. Like she's fuck
frocked.
it. And people don't really realize that when you got to put on the tight jeans and you got to get that button done. Anyone male who stuffed themselves into an old suit or females try to put on the form-fitting jeans, it'll pinch and you'll go, fuck, I better back it off with the carbs. Like you get this thing. She shows up in more flowing shit. She's just, at this point, she's just taken a tarp and put a hole in it and just put her head through it, which enables her to put on as much weight as she wants because nothing ever pinches.
Right.
It's the Aretha Franklin scenario.
On her. Yes. It's just, you need that pinch thing to go, I've overdone it.
Yeah.
I got to back it off.
Opposed to the elastic. So here's what happened. So that's a picture of her in Till. She agrees with you, but also has an excuse as well. The co-host, somebody explained that a critic said, like, about the movie, I found her fat suit distracting. And here's Whoopi's response.
I don't really care how you felt about the movie, but you should know that was not a fat suit. That was me. Yeah. And that was steroids. Remember last year I had all, and I was very sick. And so, in the hospital. And I assume you don't watch the show, or you would have known that that was not a fat suit. But I just want to let you know that it's okay not to be a fan of a movie, but you want to leave people's looks out. So just comment on the acting, and if you have a question, ask somebody, because I'm sure you didn't mean to be demeaning. But
Speaking of demeaning, the message should be, please judge the movie on its merits and not by the looks of the stars. She kind of got that backwards.
Yeah.
Which is, you can think about whatever you want about the movie. It's like, well, just judge the movie on what it is.
Well, and so she was saying it was the steroids.
So she had a problem physically.
Yeah, she had she had some like respiratory issue that landed her in the hospital.
Sounds familiar.
Steroids will give you the moon face.
Yeah.
All right, you got the AJ Kowicki or KJ
HB
Kowicki.
Yeah, so they were attempting to do a sequel, Gone in 60 Seconds 2 in 89, and while filming,
89.
Halicki was preparing for a dramatic stunt sequence in the film, during which a 160-foot tall water tower was supposed to topple to the ground. When a cable attached to the tower snapped unexpectedly, it sheared off a telephone pole, which fell on Halicki, killing him instantly.
Well, there you go. And that was Gone in 60 Seconds. All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
This YouTube jack off. Have fun.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Well, let me tell you about my friend Jordan Harbinger. All right. Well, let's give some well-deserved plugs. Jake Paul and Anderson Silva. That's going to be a great fight. October 29th. Tickets on sale now. Showtime pay-per-view. Boldly Go, the name of Bill Shatner's book. Always a mention, always a delight. San Diego, Mic Drop Comedy, October 28th and 29th. We're going to do some live pods there, some stand-up there as well. And then Vegas, Wise Guys Comedy Club coming up November 2nd. You can go to AdamCarolla.com for all the live shows. And until next time, this is Adam Carolla for Jake Paul, William Shatner, Gina Grad, and Paul Bryan saying mahalo.